In the best of the rest of the news, tomorrow hundreds of parents, children, cancer survivors, and celebrities will be in our nation's capital for a Stroller Brigade on Capitol Hill. Participants in the Stroller Brigade will be calling on Congress to protect families by introducing and passing meaningful toxic chemical reform laws. Toxic chemicals, which have been linked to cancer, birth defects, and other serious health issues, are found in a wide variety of consumer products like household cleaners and children's products. Yet Washington has repeatedly failed to protect American consumers from their harms. Joining me now to talk more about tomorrow's Stroller Brigade and the importance of introducing meaningful chemical reform laws are Jennifer Beals, actress and activist, and Andy Igrejas, Executive Director of Safer Chemicals, Healthy Families. Jennifer, Andy, welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you with us. First, Jennifer, the Stroller Brigade.
Yes.
Tell us about this. What is this? How did it come about, and how did you get involved with it?
Well, it's a group of hundreds of parents coming together to urge Congress to enact stronger laws regulating toxic chemicals. And for me, I just grew tired of feeling like I needed to have a PhD in toxicology in order to be a competent parent. And I started to realize that the Toxic Substance Control Act really was not a meaningful piece of legislation, and that we needed to reform the law. And so I wanted to be here to help support that.
Do you think that, or did you get a sense that there might be an association between this explosion in childhood illnesses and conditions from autism to cancers and what's in our environment? Was that part of your motivation?
Absolutely. I mean, from the things that I've read, the rates of leukemia, pediatric leukemia, have gone up in ways that are not clearly associated with any kind of genetic reasons. There's, the rates of autism, the rates of asthma, ADHD, all kinds of childhood illnesses that have gone up that can't be explained just through genetics. And for me as a parent, I want to make sure that the law protects everyone. I want to make sure that it protects pregnant women, children, and vulnerable communities. And right now, the Chemical Safety Improvement Act doesn't do that. And I think we need to take that extra step to protect everybody.
Andy, what are the issues? What are the chemicals? Where are these things? Are we talking about, detergents? Are we talking about paint on toys? Are we talking all of the above?
It's
carpets?
all of the above, and the chemicals you're exposed to in the workplace or in your community. Chemicals that can get into the drinking water or get into the air. But the most unregulated area is actually the chemicals in the consumer products that you bring into your home. And it's not just the things you think of when you think of chemicals like detergents, but couch cushions that have been soaked with toxic flame retardants that now show up in every nursing mother's breast milk. Chemicals that didn't exist 40 years ago. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about. And there's no federal system to really look at all of that and make sure that it is adding up to something that isn't causing these diseases, that is healthy, that is okay. So you both have known toxic chemicals that make their way into these products, and you have the vast majority of chemicals where their health effects have never really been studied, and yet they get to be used in products that we bring into our homes. And so reform has to tackle both problems.
And I think, for me, for the most part, I know that I'm in this enviable position of being able to shop my way around certain problems. But then, there's a time when our children go to school, and we don't necessarily have control over what cleaning products they use. We don't necessarily have the kind of control that we would like to make sure that there are no artificial turf fields with the crumb rubber that's made out of repurposed tires. And so for me, I would really want to see some kind of legislation that would protect children when they're out of the, sight of their parents.
Well, you mentioned the existing law. Is that law full of holes because the United States has basically never followed the precautionary principle that we've always followed, kind of the libertarian strategy of wait till people die and then the market will fix itself? Or is it because there were holes drilled in it intentionally when it was put in place? I
don't know if there were holes drilled in it intentionally, but I know that most Americans don't even know what the precautionary principle is.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Andy,
it is, well, the law that was supposed to take care of this that passed in the 70s really is the one of the original environmental laws that did things like the Clean Air Act. All those. But this is the one that never got off the ground, that never had a heyday. You know, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, they all have made a big difference. There's debates about how aggressively we can implement them, et cetera, but they've at least done something. But the Toxic Substances Control Act, it never really worked. And the idea is to have a new reform, and there's one in Congress now, that would finally fix these problems. But the one that's before Congress right now would repeat the same mistakes. And so you'd have reform in name only, and you'd still basically have chemicals not being regulated to protect public health. And that's what we're here to focus on.
Why is that?
I think the chemical industry has had too much influence over the process. The legislation is skewed in their favor. There's a lot of their favorite phrases about science and other things are in the legislation. There are new opportunities provided for them to sue EPA. There are new restrictions put on states. The states are the place that where we have had success in the last 30 years in actually tackling toxic chemicals. California, Washington, Maine, some other states. And so we're trying to, the message of the Stroller Brigade is we do want reform, we do want it to be bipartisan in order to get something done, but it has to be meaningful. It has to work backwards from what the doctors and the scientists have said is meaningful reform.
Jennifer, you're meeting with members of Congress.
Yes.
Tell me about that. What's the message?
The message is that I would like to see meaningful change. And I want to see, again, pregnant women, children, vulnerable communities protected. And that's, in the Chemical Safety Improvement Act doesn't do that right now.
So you and a group of people are essentially becoming citizen lobbyists? Is that how it's working out?
Yes. And I think what people in the Beltway don't understand is that, you know, there are a lot of parents out there, and it's a bipartisan group that deeply care about their children, that deeply care about future generations, and, you know, no one's profit margin can justify harming children.
Yeah, that's very well said. Andy, do you see a solution to this in the minute we have left here? Do you see, is there, for example, specific proposed legislation, or are you trying to mitigate the harms that are in the legislation?
No, there's a bill before Congress, the Chemical Safety Improvement Act. It's in the Senate Environment Committee, and the fixes that would be needed to make it meaningful and truly protective of public health are very clear, and a group of folks have articulated them, not just us, but the pediatricians and obstetricians and gynecologists, medical and scientific organizations. And we're confident that if they really want to do this, how to do it is pretty clear. And Senator Boxer, who chairs that committee, is negotiating to try and make that happen right now. So we're reasonably hopeful.
Yeah, great. It's great to have you both with us, and I wish you such good luck. I mean, this is a major undertaking. You're taking on a multi-billion-dollar industry.
It's so crucial.
Good luck.
Thank you.
It really is. Thanks. Jennifer Beals, Andy Igrejas, thank you. And for more information, you can go to saferchemicals.org.